there seems to be something that we can all agree upon as far as an identity crisis, uh, authentication, authenticity, autonomy. It seems to be self-efficacy. What is the self? We're lost in a sort of um, I don't know, identity crisis as individuals, and it seems to be the grand design seems to be made that way. I can't tell you how many, of these conversations I have, and then when it comes down to a localization of how does this affect me? What does this mean to me on a localized scale? What am I really describing here? It really has to do with um, you as an individual, you assuming yourself as an individual, and then what those components mean in totality, approvability and authentication, if you will, as to say that what you are, what you're prompted to be, and what you assert yourself to be is different than the oftentimes dramatically different than what the track or the scope that you are on in your daily life, your daily walk. And even more so, a, a, um, a forced notion to sin against the self, right? So if you were to think about your day and you were to pre-plan your day, and some people, particularly academics, they're able to pre-plan their day. They're able to think about what they're going to do. They sort of meander into and in and out of their day. They realize that there's only a certain peak concentration or peak period where they're going to get much done, and they become kind of like these fart machines, right? The academic, where they're studying and hypothesizing in a particular area of interest that is agreed upon by their constituents, but they never really do any groundbreaking research, and this frustrates them. And as soon as they get any sort of affirmation or accolades, um, they fall back on a sort of moral purgitude and never advance beyond that. And then they get old and die. And it's a pretty sad situation. You could say, oh, scientists have contributed more. Have they? Have they? Come on, really? What has really occurred here is an on-running operation where a technocratic civilization has always been um, behind the scenes, pulling the puppet strings, and everything else is just an act, And people know this. They know that there is just a fucking act going on here. Act one, scene two, you know. Um, they kind of give us a notion or an idea that we're able to name these scenes, we're able to name these eras of our life, we're able to name trends and the features of these trends and so forth. But the truth is that we're supposed to learn to follow along. We follow along, and then invariably we find ourselves in the thick of the bramble bush, fearful to go out, fearful to move, and realizing I'm just going to stay right here, right? But once we start to break out of the confines of the falsified self, that falsified notion of this is what you're going to do today, we're going to throw this in the mix today. And you know that there's some sort of synchronicity or synchrodestiny. And I guess that's what I'm saying is that the synchronicity is the default, is the sabotaging agent going towards someone who is sinning or signing against themselves, and invariably cannot culminate and build up the principle-based energy system as to practice the principles, which is the main focus, the main scope should always be based upon principles. This type of information, you could say that it came clear to me, that it came free, that it was a part of me from before my beginning here. But at least there's that notion or that feeling that I have virtue, that the virtue is going to be manifest, and the morality is something that invariably happens, and that the principles are what I follow and who I am. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Everyone seems to rely on, it seems like people are paid off that believe that, and they're given the life that they think that they want. And through the secret, right, the Rhonda Byrne thing, the master key system, what the secret is based on, and intent, the power of intent. You're supposed to be short-sighted in your efforts. See something that you want that house, you want that car, and as long as it falls within the scope, the boundaries of that bramble bush of where you've been put, where that little rabbit's been put, that little rabbit doesn't want to bleed, that little rabbit doesn't want to experience pain, any more pain, right? And we're constantly prodded and reminded and then erased, and we seem to be, to this codified mimetic networking system, regurgitated and spit back out through possibly modified, uh, codified networking system, right? To change, what we get back to is like Metcalfe's law, but in specific, it's cybernetics. It's communication, it's information, parlay, relay, delay of information, and how a needed node will suddenly not be there, and another node, we're talking about the individual, will fall in its place. And does the system, the pervading system, accept the falsified notion of the best next thing? So I think that it sounds like I'm talking about a very roundabout about mechanism, but in fact, I'm being extremely precise about what the discourse that I'm going into with the individual, the falsified self, and the false moniker, the false mimetic sequence of trying to get the master system to accept an error code instead of demanding and then producing the authentic article. So we are not authentic articles, and that's where I'll end.